I'll tell you what I tell everybody. I do not believe what makes America great is uniformity or loyalty. It's freedom. The freedom to say what you want to say, to love who you want to love, to worship how you want to worship, and to be who you want to be. And sadly, I think that freedom is under threat right now. And that starts to translate into very specific policy issues.
Welcome to the McKinney Podcast, the show that celebrates what makes McKinney unique by nature. This podcast exists to spotlight the people, the organizations, and the events that shape our great city. You can count on every episode to tell a compelling story and help increase your awareness and perspective on what's happening around McKinney. Your hosts for this fun-filled adventure are Fred Mahusay, owner of FredShots Photography, and James Jenkins, CEO of RiskWell. Connect with us on YouTube and on our website, McKinneyPodcast.com. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of the McKinney Podcast. We celebrate what makes us unique by nature here in McKinney. We are joined this episode by Mr. Evan Hunt, candidate for Texas Congressional District 3.
Thank you.
The primary is March the 3rd or 2nd, 4th?
March the 3rd, and then the official election is November the 2nd.
And as we record this, early voting started 2 days ago?
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Correct.
I'm usually the first day of early voting. I haven't done that yet.
I'm
I'm feeling a little tingly because I haven't voted yet. I usually just, boom, first possible day I vote.
That's good. I have my shot at you before you get to the polls here.
Yeah, as we'll talk about in this episode, you are a problem for those of us that consider ourselves to be reasonable, rational, conservative voters who don't necessarily subscribe to a far, far right philosophical leaning. I don't mind saying point blank, hey, you're going up against Keith Self. Keith Self is the incumbent. He is endorsed by Trump and loved by the MAGA crowd.
Yep.
I don't have a cross word to say about Keith as a person. I think as a politician, he's made some confusing decisions in the last 2 years. Some of the comments that he's made are just like, huh?
Yep.
Keith, why did you feel the need to say that? Like, I voted for you. I supported you in the last election against your candidate at the time, Sandy Srivastava, who didn't run a good campaign and I don't think ever really had a legitimate chance of beating Keith. It was kind of an odd thing. We had Sandeep on this show and came away from that interview just thoroughly confused. I was like, well, what is this guy about? I don't think Sandeep ever really had a chance. You're running unopposed.
Yes.
So obviously you definitely have a chance because you're running unopposed. You don't have a primary candidate. So the last several weeks, you've had the luxury of not primarying someone else and having to spend dollars and hours and effort going up against the primary opponent. So welcome to the race, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate being on. I appreciate what you guys do for our McKinney community because I love having reasonable conversations, right? This is what I want politics to get back to. Like when you get in person, you get out of the echo chambers on the internet.
I hate the echo chamber.
They're terrible. And the algorithms drive you this way.
Yeah.
Things get really extreme and really mean. And I find when you get out and with real people, especially people from your community, you can have great conversations about real issues.
The issues.
The issues, yes.
Respectfully, and I know I'm going to end up with people that are giving me a hard time for this, I don't care about national party politics when it comes to what happens locally.
Yep.
Like, yes, I know you're going to be, fighting over who gets to sit in Congress and represent us on a national stage. But at the end of the day, you're representing your local constituents.
That's what you should be.
You live here.
That's what the job is. It's representing your district.
Yeah.
And hopefully representing your district's interests at the federal level and hopefully bringing back resources to your district to make life easier for your constituents.
Yeah.
A lot of that's been replaced, sadly, on both sides of the aisle by party loyalty.
And grandstanding.
And grandstanding.
And virtue signaling and all the things. Yeah.
All the above.
The things that make people hate politics.
Correct.
That give Congress less than a 20%. Insurance agents have a higher approval rating than Congress.
Nice.
And that tells you something.
Well, yeah. And that sadly, it's like this reinforcing thing because that apathy makes our politics worse.
Yeah.
Everybody goes, oh, why are we ruled by these extreme guys? Why is Keith Self using more and more extreme language? Well, when only the extremes are involved in politics, when regular people don't talk politics at the dinner table, when we don't get involved and vote in primaries and really choose our representatives based on what they're saying, we just vote along party lines. Yeah, you get ruled by the extremes.
Yeah.
You know.
So I have to confess, and I don't mean to speak for you,
Go for it.
I care a lot more about politics and representative government than my friend Fred here. I get all the way in the weeds. I love the conversations.
Great.
Fred
He
votes.
loves the argument. That's right.
Fred votes, but Fred doesn't care nearly as much as I do about this stuff.
Well, I care. I just don't voice it out there because I believe I'm one person, one voice, one vote, and I leave it up to the candidates to convince me why you're the best. You know, James and I, when we were walking back up here, talking about what was it? Oh man, I just lost it. But what I want to say was that I remember was that we're quick to label, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm a whatever, and that's just one little identifier. But as soon as I state that I'm one of these, if we're on the same team, then we just have this camaraderie. If we're not, then it's instant accusation, instant judgment, instant all these things. And, every single election I've ever voted in, I try my best not to look at, which party they're a part of. I just want to look at what are they actually saying? What do I see from what they've done before? Because I figured out a long time ago that labels are just labels, and it's convenient for people. And a lot of people claim a label just because they know that it's popular.
That's right.
And I'm like, that's but in your case, you have to declare at some point. But James, you've already made your statement about
the whole mechanism, the machine of American politics is so broken because if you don't have a national party platform behind you,
that's it.
Fundraising hurts,
Can't.
and endorsements hurt, national spotlight. You're not going to get as we record this, earlier this week, James Tallarico, candidate for Senate, current state representative, was on the Stephen Colbert show.
Yep.
And it was like, oh my gosh, how does that happen? You've got a state representative on a national late night show. I was like, the only way that happens is the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Congressional Committee said, hey, Stephen Colbert, we'd love to have you put James Tallarico on your show. And his people said, yeah, sure, let's do it. Sounds like fun. The only way that happens is with national party politics getting involved. Otherwise, James Tallarico doesn't have any realistic chance of getting on there over pick the celebrity, whatever celebrity is going to be on that night. I was like, anybody who's not from Texas is going, who the heck is James Tallarico?
Yep.
Well, I want to give you some of my perspective.
Yeah.
Right? Because as I got into this, I'm not a politician, right? So I've learned a lot, and some of my assumptions proved to be a little wrong, I think, especially for us down here in Texas. So, Fred, I've been you, right? Where I didn't care about politics. When I served, I was in active duty, right? I was
we're going to get there.
Struggling to raise my children. Politics would come on. I'd sort of turn off the channel, and I'd just show up to vote. But now that I'm more involved, now that I'm more active, I like to drill down into the issues and the details and get beyond the party politics. I was worried that when I jumped in, I sort of thought that the big arms of the Texas Democratic Party or the DNC, the national DNC, would start mandating I have to say certain things and start sort of exerting their influence and power over me as the Democratic nominee in 3rd District. And I'll speak for the Democrats because I don't know how it's working in the Republican Party, but it is so grassrootsy. I can't tell you. I know the Texas Democratic Party chair. I said, it's Kendall Scudder, right? I said, Kendall, what can I do? What do you need me to do? He said, I just need you to fight and win. That's all. And I'll be there to show up for you when I can be. The DNC hasn't called me once.
Really?
Nope. I'm the nominee.
You're the nominee for Congress.
Correct. And it's not, I've gotten a lot of endorsements. It's just this whole thing, this experience of how grassrootsy it is, has given me some hope for our political system.
Wow.
Because frankly, I used to be super frustrated with the 2-party system. right?
I am currently frustrated with the two-party system.
Everybody
it's
is.
annoying.
Everybody is. And everybody would love to just hear you say you're going to run as an independent.
But then you're on your own for everything.
You're on your own. You gotta be a multimillionaire, otherwise forget it. And the parties do give you, especially in the primary phase, they give you a base of people to talk to that you have to win over, that you have to get behind you, and because the parties do organize at the local level. I mean, in Collin County, they're very organized. You get out east and 3rd District, not so much. But what that means is the parties are constantly evolving. And this is what I say, like the Republican Party is nothing like it was 10 years ago. Nothing. So parties are just groups of people.
Yeah.
And I got in, especially when the party that you are part of is not in power in DC. It's an opportunity to rebrand. So again, it's a credit to our founding fathers for having this foresight. It's like, oh, well, when the party didn't win the last election, they're going to have to rebrand if they want to win. And guess the right way to rebrand when you have good candidates is you find out what your constituents want, what matter to them, and you speak to their hearts and minds. Yeah. And then you effectively rebrand the party.
Well, I'm going to get to a question here in just a second. It's kind of interesting when you say rebrand because I find it really peculiar as an observer, as a voter, obviously as a citizen who cares about this stuff, but as just a business owner and a marketer by nature. At my default, I'm a marketer. Let's be honest. Every business owner is a marketer.
100%.
All of us are. And I'm sitting here watching the presidential election last cycle where Kamala Harris goes up against Donald Trump and she loses by a relatively thin margin. And then rather than, kind of recamp and revisit and recalibrate and whatnot, within a month, I'm seeing like major news organizations saying that Kamala's going to run in 28 with AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, possibly one of the farthest left people in our national political environment as her VP candidate. And I'm just like, wait, what? Help me understand that, guys, national people. It's like, where's the recalibration? Where's the retooling of the message? Where's the recognition that, hey, you know what? America told us they didn't like this message this time. And it's like the rebranding, I think, happens all the time in Congress. I don't know if it happens. The big national party people. It's like, are you guys not listening? We didn't like that messaging.
That's right. I think the Democratic Party, I think both parties are out of touch with the needs of normal American people.
I would agree.
The Democratic Party lost, and its popularity was low because it got particularly focused on some issues that I think most Americans didn't care for. Yeah. And parties are sort of aligned loosely around values, right? So it's like which church do you go to if you're a Methodist, right? You kind of gravitate to the church and the people in that church that speak most to your values. So the party is values aligned, but the messaging changes significantly. And actually the legislative goals change significantly depending on where you come from. An AOC or a Zohran Mamdani in New York City have real messaging and policy goals that are more to the left than what I would push for the 3rd District, because we're a totally different area of the country with totally different demographic challenges and totally different values, frankly, at a higher level. Yeah. The one thing that I think unites Democrats is Democrats in general believe in sticking up for other people, taking care of people who are misfortunate, and believe in the power of the federal government to do some good. And that is what I would call divergent from the Republican Party, which over time has become more about, at least the rhetoric has been about tearing down government, draining the swamp, making government as small as possible. Keith Self, my opponent, doesn't believe in earmarks. He doesn't bring money back to the district. He thinks it's his job to just sort of keep government tiny in his rhetoric. But my biggest problem with the Republican Party is that what they're actually doing is exactly the opposite.
Well, they're expanding government
100%.
Wildly.
It's the opposite of conservatism. So I would tell any MAGA Republican, I'm more conservative than you are.
Well, and imagine my frustration as someone who has historically, all but one time in my 21 years of voting, I've only voted for one Democrat in my life. And there's a reason for that. I'm born and raised in Texas. I haven't lived anywhere else since I was 21. It begs the question, Evan, I look at your resume, I read your bio, I go to your website, I see what you stand for, and I find myself going, why is this guy a Democrat?
Yeah.
Explain it to me. Help me understand why you're a Democrat.
Sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I grew up, my parents were Democrats. I mean, some of this is just kind of where your values are when you're young, kind of what party you gravitate toward naturally. I mean, I grew up admiring JFK, right, and Martin Luther King, and sort of
great guys to admire.
Admiring that style of leadership. I actually was very. I thought Obama was a great example for our nation as a president, right? So I think Democrats have things to be very proud of in our nation's history, and I really like that defining thing of, hey, taking care of other people, sticking up for people that are less fortunate than you are. When it came to actually running, I didn't have to run as a Democrat, but I would tell you there was zero option to run as a Republican. The only way to run as a Republican and win, I believe, is to be totally in line with everything Trump wants you to do. And that changes, as you know, on a weekly basis. So I think you kind of have to sell your soul. I think Trump has eaten out the heart of the Republican Party, which is that beautiful conservative heart, small government, local governance, even pro-public schools. Yeah. It's just completely gone out the window. And it's become about what Trump wants from one day to the next. Doesn't matter if it's taken over Greenland. Doesn't matter if it's, sending masked agents into streets. It just goes on. And you can kind of get behind it, but I genuinely wanted to be able to modify my messaging and represent people who didn't feel like they were being heard by the current administration. And that meant running as a Democrat.
Imagine my frustration as a conservative with the current situation at the national level. Because I'm sitting here looking at what's happening in Minneapolis with a lack of due process.
Correct.
The Constitution is very clearly not being followed.
Correct.
Where private residences are being entered by force without reasonable suspicion. And I'm just like, is this okay? This does not feel okay.
I'm a normal citizen. I would not be running if I wasn't so upset.
Yeah.
I really, some people get into politics for different reasons, but for me, this was a passion project, like you said about this podcast.
Yeah.
I cannot stand to see what's happening in this country. And I just want to get it back to the middle, get it back to this place where we can have reasonable conversations like this.
I have a suspicion, and feel free to correct me.
Yeah.
If this is 2004 and George W. Bush is in the White House, you're running as a Republican.
So I don't know, right? I'll just up front. I think I voted as a Democrat every time I voted. Part of that is because I was not really clued into politics when I was serving and raising a family. So I would do what most people do, which is just show up and vote along the party lines.
Yeah.
But I was proud to serve under Bush. I have, I think Reagan, there were so many great things about Reagan. Like I have great admiration for Republicans. Abe Lincoln was a Republican. He's one of my top political figures. So it's not really about party for me. I'm trying to tell people to please focus on the candidate and what they're focused on, and ask them the hard questions, all of them, and figure out who speaks to your heart. Like, who cares what you voted for 4 years ago? Nothing. All bets are off. The Republican Party's changed. The Democratic Party's changing. If you get really apathetic, and some people do, they say, oh, well, once you get elected to Congress, you're going to sell us out and you're going to vote with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer every step of the way. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I never got into this thinking that I was going to win, right?
You got a long shot.
It's a long shot.
Yeah.
So, and second of all, I have no interest in doing the job if I have to just bow to, the leaders of the Democratic Party. I am here to serve. I mean that. And both Republicans and Democrats have proven that they can do that. Look at Thomas Massie. Look at Rand Paul. Even with all the pressure within the Republican Party from Trump, they've still managed to stand up for the things that they really value. So I don't believe all Republicans are bad. I just think it's very hard to be effective for your constituents in the Republican Party right now.
So basically, you're putting all the current top dog leadership on notice that if/when you get elected to this position, that it's not business as usual.
I'm not alone. I mean, I'll tell you. This is the first time in a very, very long time that no seat has gone unopposed by Republicans. And a lot of the Democrats running are veterans like me, who grew up, with allegiance to the nation, not allegiance to a party, who are very upset about what's happening right now. And they just want to, I mean, again, it's sort of like a group think. There's not a defined strategy. There's no Project 2028. It's just people, right? I think good citizens wanting to do the right thing, stepping up and using their voice to make a change. And all I can say is I'm not alone. There's a ton of great veteran candidates that are trying to do the same thing. And yeah, I do not intend to vote along party lines. I intend to vote with what's best for our constituents. And I also intend to, after I vote, come back and hold town halls and tell people why I voted that way. Take the shots, argue about it. If I'm wrong, convince me I'm wrong. Like, I don't know everything. Politics is hard. You're supposed to be an expert on every single little issue.
That's why you have a staff.
You have a staff.
Yeah.
It's also why you have constituents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about platform.
Yeah.
What is the Evan Hunt platform?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, if I were to guess, this is probably one of the sound bites from the episode.
This is going to have people scratching their heads and looking like a dog trying to read a clock on the wall. They're going to be turning their heads going, wait a minute.
What are the issues that you care most about? What are the issues that got you off the couch, so to speak, and to put your name in the hat and to go through the incredibly unpleasant exercise that is running for congressional office?
It is unpleasant, but it's also very rewarding. So I would, it's been an amazing experience. It's also, I understand why people don't run. But I'll tell you what I tell everybody. I do not believe what makes America great is uniformity or loyalty. It's freedom. The freedom to say what you want to say, to love who you want to love, to worship how you want to worship, and to be who you want to be. And sadly, I think that freedom is under threat right now. And that starts to translate into very specific policy issues, like, for example, healthcare reform. I think healthcare is a threat to people's financial freedom right now.
Totally agree.
And so you can have your complaints about ACA subsidies and the ACA, and it grew into something it shouldn't have, but I don't believe we should be ripping out the rug from under Americans. 10% of third district constituents are still on ACA subsidies, and they'll see their insurance spike massively. The rest of us will see our insurance spike. This is the issue we should have been focusing on instead of what we have been focusing on.
Yep.
Healthcare reform is one. Nobody should be a medical emergency or a cancer diagnosis away from bankruptcy, and I think even the upper middle class falls in that category now.
Yeah.
Immigration reform. So I believe in very strong borders. I believe we've got great border patrol. We've got I don't think they were supported in the way they should have been for a long time. We had porous borders. I blame both administrations, but certainly that has been fixed now. Great. I do not believe that the way to deal with the worst first is the way we're dealing with it. I believe in treating people with dignity and respect. I think that local cops who we trust, who we know in our communities, should be empowered to catch criminals. And when those criminals are found to be undocumented, they should be turned over to immigration authorities on the border for expedited deportation. So there's a lot of ways to fix the issue without obstructing due process, like you were talking about, because no amount of deportations is worth obstructing one American citizen's rights, and certainly not the death of American citizens.
Yeah.
Even if they're getting in the way while they're, protesting.
That video was incredibly difficult to watch.
Oh, yes. And I
was
don't.
like, it deeply grieving.
Both of them for me. Both.
Yeah.
And, those are only the ones that are recorded.
There's who knows how many haven't made the national news.
Imagine if there was no such thing as cell phones.
Yeah.
So I try not to lean into conspiracy and sort of lean into all ICE agents are bad. But this is beyond the pale. This is not American. I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
When I was flying combat missions in Afghanistan, I didn't get to wear a mask. I didn't get to carry around. These guys are dressed like Navy SEALs, and they're in American neighborhoods, and they're chasing fifth graders. Like, something's wrong.
Yeah. When we talk about aggressive recruitment of new ICE agents, and we've all seen the ads in our news feeds on social media put out by the government, and it's like when you're aggressively recruiting people to join ICE as enforcement agents, I can't help but think the standard that you are putting those people through, the assessment, the filters that they have to pass through to get to wear that badge, there's no way to not compromise them in some extent. Do we know that we're not putting openly xenophobic, openly racist people, open Klansmen, Proud Boys, etc.? Like, are we filtering for people that have a desire to commit violent acts against people of different races? Do we know that they're filtering these people? We don't know.
Well,
when you're aggressively recruiting to that extent, you're bound to get some people through that get to wear an ICE badge that want to hurt black and brown people.
Yeah,
and that's just deeply concerning to me.
Yes, exactly. So training is only 2 months.
Yeah.
The hiring process is incredibly quick. I mean, there have been examples of liberal podcasters that went to one recruiting site, got offered the job. They didn't even do the background check to find out that they're a liberal, pro,
anti-ICE
podcaster.
Yeah.
There have definitely been examples of people with histories of domestic violence and abuse that got offered those jobs. And yes, I believe it's highly likely that some Proud Boys are ICE agents. And it's just not the way it should be working. People call them policemen, but police and the military go through extensive nonpartisan training.
Yep.
And even in the Air National Guard. So, part of the Air National Guard's mission is not only to deploy federally overseas to fight our wars, but also to do emergency response,
like
domestically.
hurricane relief.
Like hurricane relief.
Putting sandbags up.
Yep. Or COVID relief or shoveling snow off rooftops. I mean, I've kind of done it all in the National Guard. Boy, when we started talking about crowd control, everybody was like, that's not really the job of the military. And that's a whole different training. Like, you need all sorts of different equipment.
De-escalation, ...
Exactly. I mean, because these are American citizens we're talking about. So don't tell me the ends don't justify the means. Don't tell me American citizens should get hurt or even slightly bothered by immigration authorities. It's completely unnecessary. So immigration.
Sorry, we took a rabbit trail there.
We did, but that's fun.
It's a current event. It needs to be said.
Yes.
I don't know anybody that doesn't make very uncomfortable seeing what's happening to people who's like, I'm a citizen. I'm a brown person, but I've lived here my entire life.
Correct.
I don't have a criminal record. Why are you guys hassling me? I was like, oh my gosh, we cannot allow that to happen. I would rather 10 guilty people go and get off without getting justice than one innocent person get detained, deported, whatever. It was
that's exactly
we
right.
cannot allow U.S. citizens who have lived here their entire lives, who have no criminal history, to be treated this way.
Yeah, I mean, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. That's the way I see it. And
but then, how do you address the person who, there are reported cases of where somebody who was here illegally, who was captured and then or was arrested for something, let out. How do you speak to the person who is the victim of a crime after that person who is here illegally has been, and this, I'm not looking for, a hard press thumb here. Just something to think about is that,
it's a great question.
Because I've seen, both sides of this argument, and yes, there are things where I think, man, if only we had a 100% effective system, but it doesn't work that way because it's in the hands of people. And, where people are involved, there are going to be flaws, but that's what makes us human. The thing that we love that makes us human is also the thing that makes us, imperfect and fallible. So,
well, I mean, you're right, though. The people that get really fired up defending ICE are sometimes they've had very personal experiences with undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens that were caught for a crime, got let out, and then sadly did something horrible. But that is a failure of our criminal justice system. And ICE raids are a Band-Aid. That doesn't fix the problem. What happens when they catch a just regular American citizen that just raped a child, and then they let them out. That guy's not getting deported. ICE agents aren't going after them. So I grew up in New York City, right? Went until I was 12. The city had terrible crime back then. The way it was fixed is they put a cop on every corner. They invested in local police. And they also invested in some local social services for the homeless and things like that. But it's amazing when you are policed by friendly neighborhood policemen that are well-equipped, well-trained, that know their communities. They know where the criminals are, right? They know more than anybody else, a lot more than federal agents with these massive tracking systems at a national level. And they catch criminals. And then let's go fix our real justice system. Let's make sure that when a rapist is caught for a crime or a murder, that they don't walk. They get they do the time,
And what was the NYPD in the 90s and 2000s?
Yeah.
The best trained, best resourced municipal law enforcement agency on the planet.
100%. And it was amazing how well they cleaned it up. And I'll tell you, all the money ICE is a standing army. ICE is literally larger now than most standing armies of countries in the world. And if you took all that money, they're getting paid $100,000 an agent. They have $50,000 signing bonuses. Look at all the equipment they have. If you took all that money and you funneled a portion of it into our local and state police, you would probably have the best trained and equipped state police, local police in the world in every community.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just a misallocation of resources sort of based off of some false assumptions. And sadly, it's also cruel.
What's the other items on your platform before we pivot? Because I know we got hung up on immigration there because it's definitely a very current event in 2026 as we record this. What else is there on your platform list?
Okay, so I'm very pro public school. I think everybody says, oh, well, public schools aren't a federal issue. Well, 20% of a public school's budget comes from the federal government. So the way for a federal government, for a public school to be appropriately funded is to be appropriately funded at the local, state, and federal level. So it's about 50% property taxes, 30% state, 20% federal. The federal government funding tends to come in the form of school lunch program, of the IDEA program, which supports special needs, and also things like the Gifted and Talented program. But frankly, the federal government hasn't pulled its weight in what it originally promised to do with the IDEA program. And now there's a push coming from Texas and states like Florida to sort of nationalize the voucher program we have here in Texas. And I think it's completely the wrong way to go. I've sent my kids to private school. I believe private schools can be a great option for parents, but only when they're forced to compete with strong public schools. Private schools aren't held to nearly the standard that public schools are. Like our public school code is, I think it's 700 pages now in Texas, and your average private school code is like 3 pages. So they don't have to accept students. They can deny a student based off race, color, creed. There aren't good private schools in certain rural areas. Like the baseline for our society, the baseline for the growth of the middle class is strong public schools. And that's like a 99% issue. I don't think vouchers would have passed if it were put to a vote.
So specifically in regards to your role,
yes,
what bill, what idea, what program would you support to help fix some of the funding problems? Because the funding issue is well documented on this podcast.
It is.
We are both of us, have kids in the public school system.
Yes.
Fred's kids are graduated. They're out. My kids are still in. This year, they're both at an elementary school here in McKinney.
Yep.
How do you fix the funding issue? Because fixing the public school system, obviously, you can't do that from Congress.
Yeah.
That is almost exclusively local and state.
Correct.
But you can fix the funding issue. What specifically would you do to improve public school funding for the students in District 3?
I think we should consider a national ban on unlimited voucher programs. So limited voucher programs are one thing, where for special needs students, for certain cases, the ISDs can decide that they give a voucher for you to homeschool or cater to your community. But unlimited voucher programs, uncapped, have already been proven to not work in Florida and Arizona. And it becomes this us versus them school
kind of a class system.
Yeah, school choice versus, I don't know, it's sort of framed as school choice, but it effectively moves public tax dollars in any form, local, state, or federal, to private schools. And that means that it attracts all sorts of grift, all sorts of private interest, which is not the intent of public dollars. So I also think the Department of Education can play an important role in mandating certain standards. Again, I believe government works best when it's locally managed. So I really think the government should basically be a cash cow that we hand money over to the ISDs so that we are managed by our local ISDs. But look, I think there should be certain civil rights classes, certain civics classes, federal government, state government classes that get taught at a deeper level and mandated for every student. Look, my kids go to public schools. I feel like the first 3-4 years of middle school, all they did was study Texas history. They knew nothing about federal government. They knew nothing about civics, and they get a taste of that as they go into sophomore, junior year, and then they start learning about international too. But I think that we should look at what educators believe is best, and we should trust our educators and only pull in the federal government to avoid what I would call a major redistribution of wealth out of public hands to private institutions.
So I guess I don't have to ask you what you think of Linda McMahon's job as Secretary of Education.
Well, yeah, I am. My problem with the whole Trump cabinet is that this time around, it seems like loyalty was the number one qualifier. So he said he was gonna put into place the most educated, the most savvy business people, the experts, and instead we've got an array of Fox News personalities and influencers, and half of which are in the Epstein files. And again, loyalty was the number one.
Speaking simply as a private citizen, I found several campaign or cabinet choices just head scratchers. It's like, why is that person being put there? I don't understand what their qualifications are.
If nobody else, what is Stephen Miller doing? Look, it's like even Linda McMahon, even RFK Jr. actually is very popular with some people. I mean, he wouldn't be my choice, but I think he speaks to a portion of the population that is worried about vaccines and worried about preservatives in our food. So there's, I can see some choices, but Stephen Miller is just this speaker.
For those that aren't familiar, what's his role? What in the cabinet?
So what is his role in the cabinet right now? He's not Secretary of State. He's Secretary of State.
Is he?
No, we need to check.
No.
I don't know what his title is right now.
I can tell you.
That's
Marco
Rubio's.
Rubio is State.
Rubio's State.
Which, by the way, love Marco.
Marco's
great.
Marco's probably what you would argue to be a qualified.
He's about the only one I can think of in the whole cabinet who's like, that guy knows what he's doing. He is highly qualified to do that job.
Yeah.
I can't name another cabinet official. Certainly not education.
Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, I don't know, Pam Bondi, all of them I find them worrisome. But really what I find most worrisome from Stephen Miller is just his tendency to turn half of the American people into the enemy. So he's
otherizing, as they say.
Otherizing, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Fred, I'm sorry. I'm totally dominated this conversation.
No. That's any
questions?
You've been throwing them out there, and But my biggest with all these things, we always want to hear what you have to say. This isn't the James and Fred podcast; it's the McKinney podcast. And as someone who is out there, fighting the uphill battle, it's critical. You've been asking all the questions that have been coming to mind, and I think that's perfect when it comes to people making that decision. So, what do you say to the always red party line person who, who more than likely who will just, check everything on their side of the aisle.
They can't get over the fact you have a D next to your name.
No, yeah, I know. I mean, look, just so you guys know, I have a lot of people who have come up to me and said, hey, I haven't voted for a Democrat since 1980, but I voted for you, right? I have people that are former Republicans that were so upset that they now are volunteers on my campaign. So some people have already sort of crossed those lines, but it's hard for folks whose a core part of their identity is either associated with a D or an R, especially folks who got really excited about Trump, and even if they're disappointed now, they have a lot invested, right? So when politics gets wrapped into your identity, when the party politics or a particular individual gets wrapped into your identity, it gets hard to walk away from. But I tell people, I just say, look, the parties are always changing. And there are real laws being passed now that are dividing people. And this is a matter of taxpayer dollars, right? We have a deficit that's exploding. We have coalition alliances that are breaking down. We're number one in the world, on the globe. We've been number one since World War II. There's only one way to go by messing too much with the system, and it's down. So, I mean, you might have a lot of complaints, but I get a little worried when we start making massive changes. We start, some needless trade wars, and we start implementing hidden taxes in the form of tariffs. So the way I say it is, please get involved. Please, try to look beyond party, because the party's already changed. I try to remind them, the Republican Party of 10 years ago is nothing like the Republican Party of today. Some are super happy about that. Some say Trump's doing everything I wanted and more. But there's a significant portion that is not happy with that and recognizes it.
Would you say the same of the Democratic Party? It's not the same as it was 10 years ago?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the Democratic Party is right now a bit of a grassroots, amorphous organization that is trying to sort of find its base again, find its baseline. But that's an exciting thing to be part of, because it means if you get involved and you pick a Democratic candidate, you can have a part in what that Democratic Party becomes.
And I'm just looking at numbers, looking at results. This has been really interesting, because it occurred to me that, Mark Nugent has a very, very long shot chance of knocking Keith off in the primary. I'd be shocked if that happens. If he does, he'll have a seat at this table, and we'll invite him back and say, hey, dude, the voters spoke and we were wrong about you.
Yeah.
If it happens, as I suspect it will happen, that Keith wins the primary, Keith will be asked the very same questions that we're asking right now. And it'll simply be, what do we do about this? Because all it takes is one side or the other, one candidate or the other, to flip 6 or 7 points. That's really it. 6 or 7 points, one way or the other, and this congressional seat goes one way or the other.
Yeah.
So you're not going to sway about 38% of the population, no matter what you say or do. 38% of the voting population of Texas Congressional District 3, they will never vote for you, no matter what.
Yeah, they just show up and they vote. Yeah. They vote down the lines.
You've got probably somewhere between 6 and 9% of the population, the voting population, that's on the other side, that's up for grabs.
Yeah, and there's a huge portion that's independent.
Yeah.
So that's also the other thing. Like, there's a large portion of independents that have consistently voted Republican. Especially for Trump. Trump got a lot of the Republican vote. But I would say the right indicator is kind of just what happened in Tarrant County. So
yeah, nobody saw that coming.
Taylor Emmett, another first-time Air Force candidate, just flipped it by 31 points. So it hasn't been represented by Democrats since 1991. Trump won it by 17 points just 2 years ago. And then Taylor won it by 14 points in the special election. Now, special elections, you can't count on that same flip everywhere else, but it's certainly an indicator of the scale of the flip.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just means, all things aren't equal. Part of what matters is how activated your base is, or how turned off your base is. So Democrats are fired up. They're upset. They're active. They're so upset they're out protesting every week. Right. Yeah. So you can count on Democrats to show up to the polls. You have a lot of Republicans who are a little turned off. They're like, I don't know if I want to be part of this anymore. I'm not going to vote Democrat, but I got a lot of other things to do. Maybe I just won't vote. You have a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that's enough to win elections.
I hear that from my social circle of disaffected, consistently conservative voters going, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, even though I voted D, I don't remember being super excited to vote since Obama.
So anything else you want to ask? I'm going to ask one last question. Then I want to give him the floor for a final pitch.
My biggest one was, speak to the people who you've already answered it, and you went one step further with the independents. But I like how you have kept it about, we need to have reasoned civil discourse, not echo chamber, not posting links to something else, not I've seen a lot of what look to be AI generated arguments. I don't hang out too much on social media. I haven't even seen an ad for recruiting for
they
ICE
were everywhere for about 2 months, man. It was scary.
I just
a lot of memes. There's a lot of memes that just sort of break down a complicated issue and make it seem super simple. And
it's not simple.
And it's not simple.
Yeah. All I see from that is a lot of finger pointing and closed-minded arguments, and I was like, I don't have time for that. I'm so far behind in just putting food on the table in the video that I'm like, I don't have too much time to get caught up in that. But like I said, I appreciate that you've come in not with a let me blast the other side, because we've had many election cycles of that, and that's the one thing I think everybody can agree upon is that we're just tired of that. Yes. That we want to actually know the heart of the candidate and have the candidate know our hearts, and where can we come together? Obviously, we're not going to agree on everything, but can we agree on most things? Can we have a common baseline which isn't name calling and finger pointing?
Well, I mean, Fred, you bring up a good point. Like, I have plenty of complaints with Keith Self, but my biggest complaint is just show up for the community. So I've been campaigning since April. I haven't seen him once. He hasn't come to one bipartisan event. He turned down the League of Women Voters. He turned down the McKinney PTA candidate forum. He turned down the EPIC candidate forum. Anytime I'm there, he's not. And so I booked Guitar Sanctuary on March 11th for an open candidate town hall debate. I invited him and Nugent to come. It can fit over 250 people, no scripted questions. We'll have security. And I don't know if either one of them will show up. And if not, we'll just answer questions, all the hard questions.
After the primary, right?
After the primary.
Yeah.
March 11th.
I'm doing some math. It's like, that's after the primary.
Correct. I mean, I just want to get back to
grassroots conversations.
Do you need some moderators? I happen to know two guys who've done a couple debates.
I would greatly appreciate if you guys would like to moderate that event.
If you don't already have somebody picked out, I mean, say the word.
Yes, I'm asking.
If you think we're a good fit for it, then my answer is absolutely.
Like, I'm in.
And I happen to know Michelle Bishop, the district liaison. She's upstairs. Michelle is a wonderful lady.
Yes.
She's a friend of RiskWell here at our company.
Yeah.
I am perfectly happy to say, Michelle, what's going on?
Yeah, please.
What's Keith thinking there? Do you think there's a chance we can get Keith to engage and have? Because speaking as a citizen, I would love to see both candidates on one stage engaging with each other and like going toe to toe
with a real crowd.
Yeah, with a real crowd, with a live mic. You can't hide, bro.
That's right.
Because
if you can't remember what position Stephen Miller had, everybody sees it. You know what I mean? But
here's the thing, Evan. This is why this is such an interesting race for me. Because you look at Keith's resume. You can go back and listen to our episode with Keith just like you can with Sandeep in the last cycle. Yeah. We were kind of fanboying a little bit because Keith is an impressive guy when you look at the body of work that he's done the last 30 years.
Absolutely.
And I can't take that away from him. I can't take that away from you. You've also got a fantastic resume. You guys have very different philosophies, which I think from a moderator perspective, I think it's great because I'm sitting here going, well, shoot, what do I do as a voter? I voted for Keith last time. I like what Keith has done historically. I don't really like what Keith has done a couple of times in the last 2 years. But overall, Keith is a fantastic American.
Sure.
He's done his service to God and country. Yeah. He's a great candidate. And I'm sitting here across from Evan Hunt. I look at your website. I see what you stand for. I see your content. I'm like, well, dang.
Uh-oh.
Evan Hunt coming to play. Evan Hunt.
Trying to give a good alternative choice.
Well, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, I might vote for a Democrat.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. I have no idea which way I'm going to lean.
Yep.
Honest to God, I have no idea. I'm going to vote for Keith in the primary because he's earned it.
Yep.
And sorry, Mark, your text message campaigns are just super abrasive. I'm not voting for you, bro. It's hyper aggressive.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's not my style. If you want to vote for that, cool. Go for it. More power to you. But you have brought a very interesting challenge to this race because you're not hyper partisan. You're not towing some line that someone told you to tow. Like, it's obvious you're in this race for the right reasons. And I think the more people hear about the race, the more people get to see you and Keith, the more the voters get to make an informed decision. I'm not going to ask you how you're different from Keith and what you would challenge him on because I want to hear that on stage.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely beg Michelle to make that happen.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why he hasn't responded yet. I'm sure people have told him don't respond, if that's why.
He probably doesn't want to platform me, but that's also part of the problem. Like, I'm the Democratic nominee.
You already have a platform.
I have a
You're the
platform.
candidate.
And it's growing, right? We have a real grassroots campaign. I mean, we already have 100 signups for that town hall debate, and it's still a long way away.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that if Keith doesn't show up, I'll be there, I'll answer questions. Maybe I'll bring other candidates, right? So that we can make it a really...
Well, and Fred, are you good with committing to that right now in front of a microphone?
Without looking at my calendar and checking with my wife, absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
I would love to.
Thank you.
Love to see that.
I'm down.
Thank you.
I hope that I will tell Michelle, Fred and I are committed to be moderators of the event that we hope your candidate shows up to. Now, I will say, to Michelle's credit, she is 0% involved with the campaign. She is Keith's district office
I've
manager.
met Michelle. She's very nice.
I love Michelle. Wonderful lady. She has nothing to do with the campaign.
Yes.
So I don't know what her pull is, but I will say, Keith, I hope you show up, man, because the people of District 3 need to see their candidates.
Right.
They need to be able to make an informed decision with the two options right in front of them.
They're ready for it. I mean, people want that type of. They're tired of this politics of us versus them, the hate. They want to see real dialogue and debate. And most people, like we talked about, when we are in person, we can find a middle ground. We can find a way forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell people, everybody has these impressions of Democrats. I think it's because it's been so Republican here for so long. They think Democrats are just these crazy blue-haired liberals. I'm like, come to one of my events. Most of them have lived in Texas for 30 years. They've got ranches. They're humble patriots. They're veterans. Like, these are real Americans that are just concerned.
Yeah.
And for those who are unsure, what are the boundaries of District 3?
Okay, so District 3 was redrawn out of cycle. So it used to be just Collin County and Hunt County.
Mm-hmm.
They redrew it. They cut Frisco out, and they cut out half of Plano. There's a strong Democratic base in Frisco and half of Plano. And so now it's East Plano through McKinney and Allen, Wiley, out to Greenville, out to Sulphur Springs, and then out to Mount Pleasant. So it's across 7 counties, over 1.2 million people. 80% of the voters are still in Collin County. 10% of the voters are in Greenville. And then you've got a small portion over there. And I've been everywhere in the district already. But certainly the fight is kind of still based here in Collin County. And I think you just got to sort of deal with what you're given, right? I wish it hadn't been redrawn. I think it made it harder for people to understand what district they're in, and it sort of carved up communities. So they tied us to a bunch of rural communities. You know, the Texas courts ruled against that redrawing, and then the Supreme Court overruled it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, people are people. We got to just, I think if you're focused on a few percentage points to win or lose, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Last question here.
Yes, sir.
How do we get more voters to the polls? Because an off cycle, a midterm, historically just doesn't have people show up. And of the eligible voters, we're lucky to get 25, 30% of the voting eligible adult population.
Correct.
How do we get people to the polls, regardless whether they're blue or red or purple? How do we get people to understand how important these decisions are for their everyday lives?
So platforms like this, you know, people want to know, how do we get people to the polls? How do we win? How do we get more money? And I tell them, I don't know any other way to do it than one person at a time, one room at a time. Anybody that asks me for a coffee, I go meet them for a coffee. I haven't turned down anybody yet. Everywhere I go, I encourage people to get involved. And that's what I would encourage you guys to do. And you're already doing it. But that has this multiplicative effect, right? If all of us all of a sudden are saying to our kids or our neighbors, like, hey, did you hear about this candidate? Did you know what's going on? What do you think of this? We start talking about politics at the dinner table again, which I know we all avoided. That's what it's going to take to have an engaged society. And our democracy, as it was intended by our founding fathers or our constitutional republic, only works with an engaged public. I don't think they ever anticipated that we would all be so distracted and self-absorbed in our cell phones and watching Netflix that we wouldn't care to exercise our right to vote. But that's where we're at in society. So we got to turn it around.
So what you're saying is we need a Netflix special talking about how to get out the vote.
We do. Yes.
Yeah, but the problem is people just be watching it and then they won't go to the polls.
But the thing is, at the end of that Netflix special, you put a link right there on the middle of their screen, a pop-up that says, click here to register to vote.
Yep.
Right there.
And it's easy to become a VAR. You can easily become a voter registrar. It's like a little course you can take online, and then literally you are qualified to register people to vote. So anybody can help do it. And that's half the battle, is just not only registering people to vote, making sure that they're going to show up to the polls, that they can get to the polls, that they understand how to fill out their ballot.
That they have an ID.
Yeah.
That they can document who they are.
Yeah. 100%.
So we don't want dead people voting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's another thing that is, well.
Was that out loud? My bad.
It's a real issue.
We're gonna get comments.
But it's also it's sort of a overblown issue, right? But I mean,
I say that in jest, but I'm half serious.
Yeah, I mean, people need to have confidence in their elections.
Yes.
Right? And so
we don't need to see spikes in Wisconsin at 2 a.m.
We don't. Yeah. This is a big issue with the SAVE Act right now, right? So the SAVE Act, they sort of say is like, oh, well, don't you agree? You should have an ID to vote. And it's a meme that is a gross oversimplification of the SAVE Act, because the SAVE Act does make it a lot harder for even citizens to register to vote, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm all for having an ID to vote. Frankly, when you go to vote, when we vote around here, you got to show your ID.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If I don't have a driver's license, they won't let me vote.
Yeah, and I don't understand why our driver's license can't have a little marker that says you're a citizen. They're already checking all the paperwork. So, and I don't understand, frankly, we could make IDs free. Like, the goal is to get people to vote, not to discourage them to vote, right?
Yeah.
So,
bro, renewing my freaking driver's license.
Painful.
It was all, I had to bring a copy of my passport. Do you know how you get a passport? You provide a copy of your birth certificate.
This is the
SAVE Act. It was like
again.
Renewing my driver's license was the most tedious process I've had in several years.
Exactly.
It was like, good Lord, this is awful.
It's painful. These things, like doing your taxes, is harder than it ever used to be before.
Yeah.
So I want to make life easier for everyday Americans, not harder.
Love it.
But yeah.
Man, we're out of time. We got another guest coming.
We've
gone over.
Smokes.
Yeah, Ron is going to be waiting.
Hey, we're having fun.
That's right. Yeah.
No, but hey, seriously, this has been a wonderful conversation. Evan, thank you for coming out. For those of you that haven't heard of Evan Hunt or don't know what he stands for, hopefully this has been an enjoyable conversation for you too. And come join us on March 11th.
Yes.
It sounds like we'll all be there at the Guitar Sanctuary. Thank you, George, for letting us use your space. Really appreciate that. And hopefully we'll see Keith Self there. Maybe Mark Nugent, wild card. Maybe he
never know.
I don't think we will. Hopefully we see Keith Self there. And hopefully it's a wild and frisky night, because, I mean, that kind of environment, that can be pretty spicy.
I'll tell you, and my commitment, I guarantee, even if Keith doesn't come, because I won't be surprised if he does not.
Keith, you better come. Looking at the camera right here, Bo. You better show up.
If he does not, we will still have a wild and spicy night, because it'll be completely bipartisan, 250 people. We're taking questions from the crowd, no scripted questions. Let's just get back to the hard conversation.
So are you imagining a text your question to this number and the moderators deliver the questions, or are you going to have an open mic?
I think I need to talk to the moderators about that. I mean, I love an open mic. I've seen it go badly when there's a lot of people.
Yes.
So usually
That's the only reason I ask, because I've seen an open
right.
mic go totally sideways.
sometimes we hand out like note cards.
Yeah, right
People
there.
put
People
their
just-
question, and then you
send
as the
them in.
moderator can
That's
pick
right.
them.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the most efficient because a lot of people are going to get up to the mic and they'll start with, back when I was 4 years old and I saw this.
And then 4 minutes later, they get to their question.
100%.
I remember why we're here.
100%.
We can talk offline.
Yeah, let's talk offline.
Hey,
Let's figure
folks,
it out.
this has been an episode, a great episode of the McKinney Podcast. Celebrate what makes us unique by nature. We'll catch you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all take care. Thanks again for listening to and watching the McKinney Podcast. We drop a brand new episode every Monday morning. We'd love to connect with you and hear your thoughts, suggestions, and guest recommendations. You can message us on Facebook or send an email to us at mail@mckinneypodcast.com. This entire production is a passion project for James and Fred and our lovely wives, Elizabeth and Allison. We're so grateful to have you along for the journey. We look forward to seeing you again next week and hopefully in person around town. That's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Make it a great day.